How are you? Thanks for
I'm
having
good.
me.
Thank you so much for jumping onto this stream. Really
Of
appreciate it.
course, of course.
I know I think it's about 10 p.m. where you are at the
I
moment,
know,
but
way past my bedtime.
but
Not
you've
really.
literally just finished a session.
I have.
Tell us about that because we had a quick Zoom beforehand just to check in, and
Yeah,
the artists you were working with were literally in the room with you then,
yeah.
so we really hit you at this spot. What were you working
So
on?
today an interesting day, and as we all know, music can be so random. So today was meant to be quite a chilled out day. Finish a quick middle eight, and then we were just me, an artist called Naya, and an artist and writer called Steve Knight. We were just meant to kind of write a couple of hooks, choruses for mainly for dance artists and DJs and stuff like that. So quite a chilled out day. And so we kind of got through 5 different ideas. And then I think it was Steve or somebody said kind of, Hannah, play us some country chords. And I just started playing. I just kind of just jammed a bit on some country chords, you know?
That,
And then the guy just started singing. And we're just like, I think we have a full song. We were just doing things like that.
wow,
And
that
then
sounded
all of a
amazing.
sudden we felt it kind of in the room as well, like this isn't a hook, this is a song. Do you know what I mean? And so
Wow.
we're just like, all right, let's do this. It's later than usual, but we're here. And so we wrote it, the guys wrote it, and we quickly recorded a guide vocal, and it's beautiful. Really, really, really happy with it.
You made that sound so easy. You just turned around and pulled out these
But
beautiful
hey,
chords.
listen, this is my baby, right? The piano, there we go, the keys.
How often does it happen like that where things just click?
I think the better you know people, the easier it is to, because we were kind of messing around, you know, and because Steve was
Mm.
on his guitar and he's like what makes country, like we were just having a discussion about genre, really, you know, and we just know each other. We've all worked together quite a lot. We're friends. And
Yeah.
so in a way I was just messing around, you know, it was just the first thing that popped into my head. And so I think feeling safe, being comfortable, working with friends, not even expecting anything, because in a way we'd already done what we wanted to do for the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in a way we were winding down, but then the wind down ended up being a second wind, you know?
Right. That's such an interesting insight, isn't it? To
Mm.
when you take the pressure away
Yeah,
from having to create something and you just let the music flow. It
yeah,
just can happen like that quite naturally.
exactly. Yeah. And
I,
then you have to go with it, you know, like I think it's like then recognizing like this is something worth it, you know? Like let's just put in the hours because we've already been here since like the afternoon, you know, so it's been a long day already, but I think we all knew like sometimes you just gotta like stay late, you know.
yeah. I think I'd read a quote from you where you were saying that your job when you're producing is to get truth in the room.
Mm.
What do you mean by that?
I guess I mean that it's quite a bold statement, but I pride myself. So we're right here, we're in my London studio. Let me just show you guys around, you know.
Right.
And I very much feel like my studio is a safe space for artists, whoever comes by, you know, even artists, top liners, producers, anything. And so I want people to feel their absolute most authentic self when they come into here. So, you know, it smells nice, the lighting is nice, the couch is comfortable. And I really try and create an atmosphere of safety and security because I think that's when the deepest stuff comes out, you know?
Mm.
And I'm here for the art. You know, like I know it sounds cheesy, but like I'm quite old school and I like songs that mean something, and that doesn't mean everything has to be a sad ballad, you know, but I want people to feel like to come in and say like, Hannah, I've had a shitty day. I want to write about that. Or Hannah, I've had a shitty day. I want to write about going clubbing, you know, and do more of a vacuous song. I want the freedom for people to
Yeah.
express whatever they want to express. And I think all of those aspects are honest,
Yeah.
you know, and I think as a producer, that is my job to make people feel so comfortable that whatever is there, whatever's on their heart, we can do it.
Yeah. So you have to be really ready to adapt. The
Yeah,
second that someone walks in the room, you have
yeah,
to be able to judge their mood very quickly
yeah,
and
yeah,
adapt.
yeah. And that's kind of the crazy part of the job that nobody really talks about, you know. People talk about the technicality of it, the musical skills, having a studio, having your equipment, but nobody talks about, it's not people management. It's like you said, it's like being really empathetic to what's going on and being able to react to that, you know. And if an artist comes in and you feel like they're a bit closed, they're not in it right then it's up to me to try and pull it out. Or it's up to me to make that decision of like, you know what, it's not going to happen today. I can see in you that's, you ain't in it. So let's just go downstairs. Let's have a coffee. Let's go around for a walk. Let's not, you know, because it isn't about, again, it sounds cheesy, but it is about the process. And I don't care if we have a song every day. I just want people to feel comfortable in my studio, regardless.
Yeah, nice.
Know? And so you kind of make these really fast, quick calls of like, should I play something? So even for today, I was playing the guys, they hadn't seen, I'm sure you've seen it, Joni Mitchell at Newport.
Right.
And they hadn't seen her perform Both Sides Now, you know. And so we started an idea and I said, guys, have you seen this performance, by the way? And I played it to them. Obviously, everybody's flabbergasted. And it immediately took us into a space of like, let's write something real, you know?
Yeah.
And
sorry, go on.
No. And I guess even that, just like that decision to play that song is quite important, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, everything you've been talking about there in terms of the empathy and your relationship with the artists, is that instinct? Was it learned? How did you come to understand that was going to be your role and get good at it?
You know what? I think it's instinct. And I didn't trust my instinct for a very long time, right? Because I think when you're young, you just run off instinct. You don't care. You second guess. You never second guess yourself. I was talking to someone else about it just yesterday or the day before about how you're not afraid of anything when you're young. You know, like the whole youth is wasted on the young saying is true. It's the truth. You know, you go on stage, you don't care. You don't care if things go right or wrong. But you don't have a lot of life experience to draw upon, you know? And then I think you get into the industry and you start questioning yourself too much. And now I'm back. I've come full circle where I'm like, I've got the knowledge, I've got the expertise, but I'm going back to my instinct, that childlike instinct, you know? That I think is really, really important to just, and it doesn't matter if it's a right or wrong move. Maybe that would have been the wrong move to play that song, but whatever, you know? It's like, I don't think, it just means you go down this path instead of that path. So I think it's also feeling safe enough and secure enough to be like, oh, have you guys heard this? Oh, what about this? And if the ideas work, they work. If they don't work, it doesn't matter. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, your background as an artist and as a touring musician as well.
Yeah.
That must stand you in good stead to understand the artist's mindset. Is that a benefit?
100%. I think being a touring musician for so long, for 8 years, you know, you're around artists at a very high level, and I think that empathy, you understand the empathy, you know, like I really understand. I don't take anything personally. For example, if people come in and they see moody, I know it's not about me, you know, maybe they've just had a bad day, or, you know, like I just don't take things personally, because everybody has, like, I need to approach every artist differently, you know, and it's okay if people are a bit shy or people talk way too much because they don't want to get to the mic, you know, like all of these are little, I recognize this because I do the same, you know. Sometimes you're in the studio and like you don't feel inspired and you're just like, oh, I don't really want to play a chord, so let me tell you a funny story, you know. And it's, in a way, it's part of the warm-up, isn't it? You know, like talking, breaking bread, talking crap, like it's important. And I think I've seen that a lot in touring, and you know, there's such a big social aspect of touring, right? You're on the road with people for 8 months, and out of those 8 months, it's only 2.5 hours you're on stage, but you're still in a bus together. You know, you're living together, and it's all the stuff that happens in between that also informs your decisions and your relationship on stage.
Yeah. I mean, that career as a touring musician, which you did for 8 years, as you said, and touring with an incredible array of artists. When you decided to stop and go into production, what was the very act of just stopping like, of setting your roots down in one place and not hitting the road?
It was crazy, and it was the scariest decision I ever made in my life, and probably that I'll ever make in my life. And it sounds dramatic, but it was quite traumatic for me, putting my suitcases away sleeping in my bed every night, not being in 5-star hotels, you know. But it was, it's this juxtaposition of I felt misplaced being in the same place because I was so used to being, you know, Rolling Stone. I was so used to just, you know, my suitcases always being on the floor because I was always gone, you know. Small things, personal things like dealing with like having fights with my brother and sister or whatever. Usually I wasn't even around, right? And there I had to like sit there and confront stuff and actually be a normal functioning human being in society. Whereas I think on the road you get to run away from a lot of stuff, you know?
Right.
And in many ways I had to like relearn my relationships because I hadn't had the day-to-day. So it took me a good 6 months, I'd say, to actually come to peace. Even though it was a decision I had made, I couldn't help but feel so jealous of all my friends on the road, you know, and you kind of, and again, it's such a weird thing to say, but, you know, my friends would be like in a certain hotel and be like, oh my God, I love that hotel. Or, you know, like small things, I couldn't shake it off because it was in my blood for so long. And it really, like, it got me down. But at some point, you know, you turn yourself around, you get used to being in one space. That took a long time. I think it's adapting, like physically adapting to being in one place, to sleeping in one bed, you know. And after 6 months, I got my head around it. And now I wouldn't change it for the world. You could not drag me back on the road for anything or anyone. I love my job so much. And in many ways, I love having, you know, like I'm in the studio Mondays to Fridays, whenever I can. I take weekends off. And that for me is a luxury that I never had on the road. Being able to deep condition my hair on a Sunday, you know, like things like that. Sure. Sundays don't exist on the road. Weekdays don't exist. Nothing exists. You know, you're on a touring schedule. And just to have that feeling of being part of society, you know, in a way, it's, for me, it was something that was really, really important. You know?
And so what was the urge then? Because even at that time, in that 6 month period when you were adjusting, you obviously had an urge to follow producing. When did that really hit you, do you think? At what point were you going, I need to stop touring, I want to just follow the production and musician urge?
You know what? I don't even think it was that clear cut. I just knew I wanted to get off the road.
Okay.
That's all I knew. And the reason I felt that is this was kind of my last year of touring. And again, we were doing arena tours. It was beautiful. It was amazing, everything. But we were doing stages I'd done before, again and again. And again, this sounds so crazy and so like kind of first world problems. But I was thinking, is the rest of my life just going to be the same big stages and a different artist, you know? And then I kept thinking, but, you know, I'm a jazz musician. That's my background. Like, as much as I love these big gigs, that was never my dream in a way, you know? Like, I always wanted to create. I always wanted music to come from me, to be generated from me. And so all I knew, and I was getting tired, like physically tired and exhausted from being on the road, you know? So I think all I knew is I wanted to get off the road. And I didn't quite know how I was going to do it, what my next stage of life was going to look like. I just knew I needed a change. And I think as creatives anyways, we like new challenges, you know? And I was kind of like, I felt like I've done it all. I've done all the stages I wanted to do. And it's been incredible. I've seen the world. It's been the most epic, amazing experience. But I'm ready now. I'm ready for something new, you know?
So where did you start? How do you start then establishing yourself as a producer?
Well, I was very, 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 very fortunate that I got a deal. So on my last arena tour, I signed a small deal, but a deal with Sony Music as a producer artist. And having that in place gave me, I don't think I would have done it without that, but it gave me the courage, you know, because I knew like somebody else was believing in me as well as another aspect of my musicianship. And so I kind of made that move, you know, like, and I was thinking, should I keep touring and like write and produce on the road? But I knew that if I was going to get good as a producer, like really good, the way I am as a pianist, I needed to spend I needed to do it full time. I needed to practice. I needed to work on it nonstop. And so I knew I had to get off the road. I had to.
Yeah. How long did that process of getting good at producing take?
Oh, gosh. Honestly, I'd say a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like, because I was always producing, but it's one thing producing on the side, and it's another thing all of a sudden being signed as a producer and, expected to produce commercially, really, But I was so fortunate that I had friends around me that kind of co-produced everything with me for the first year or two, showed me the ropes, showed me, assets, what to send to the label, what was expected. And it was a crash course, but I got there. And then after 1.5, 2 years time, I was just like, you know what? I know now what I think my sound is, what I can do, where I want to place myself in the production world and the music world. And I was ready to kind of go it by myself. But I was very fortunate that I had friends helping me along the way in the beginning.
Yeah. What was the answer when you say that you finally understood what your place would be? What was the answer? Because, you mentioned you have a jazz background. You also have a pop background.
Yeah.
Were you looking for a middle ground there, or where did you think
know what? It's what I said in the beginning about instinct. I got signed to a very cool dance label at Sony. And so I was kind of thinking, oh my gosh, and I'm this geek, I'm this jazz nerd, Nobody said that to me, but I just got really insecure for some random reason, which was crap, which I didn't need to do. But so I got in my head. And so my initial productions barely had any piano on them, until I had to go around full circle and be like, I'm a pianist. That's what I do, so, and I'm a jazz musician. So harmony is important to me, and that's okay. And it really became clear to me when one of my label bosses was also a radio DJ. And years later, he played a track of mine and he said, oh, this is from Hannah V. She's my favorite pianist. And I was thinking, nobody told, they were celebrating me and my geekiness, it was me that I just got, why was I comparing myself to the other artists signed to the label,
Right.
And so in many ways, I just had to go full circle and be like, I love piano driven music as much as I love hip hop, R&B, anything left. And that's just me. But again, it's as much skills, but it's also being okay with who you are, which as an artist, as a producer, as a writer, it takes so long to get there.
Absolutely. One of the really key creative relationships that you have is with JP Cooper.
Yes.
At what point in, I guess, that period of trying to figure yourself out and where you belonged in the production world, did you start working with JP in that time, or?
You know what? Right in the beginning. So I think I had my first session with JP 2 months before, after I was signed. It was actually JP's first writing session ever.
Right.
So in a way, none of us knew what we were doing, which was great. So he came, he's like, he'd never co-written with anyone. I didn't really know what I was doing. We were, there was a couple of other people, a friend that was a producer, and my brother was there as a producer, writer as well. And we just kind of immediately realized that we come from a similar background. We love soul music. And so that's how we initially connected. Then I played on a couple of JP's records, and kind of slowly the relationship grew, the musical relationship grew, until one day he was just like, Hannah, do you want to produce one of my songs? And I was like, okay. And then I produced the second one, then I produced a third one, and now I think we're 35 records in or something like that. And it's just such an organic relationship. But again, it started organically when I wasn't Hannah V and he wasn't JP Cooper. We were just two people trying to figure it out,
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's special in a way, because really, really we started back in the day.
Yeah. And Raised Under Grey Skies was one of the albums that I think you had some production credits on.
Yeah.
It goes gold and continues to be such a popular record. For you, did that provide you with validation? What did that provide you with, that kind of success?
It's really interesting. So I've got, let me turn around so you can see it. I've got the discs on my wall.
Wow, yeah.
And every time I look at them, it's not validation in a way. it's relief that if you make music with people you love and really put your heart and soul into it, sometimes it resonates. And it's that feeling, so it is validation, but it's not validation of me. It's validation of the art and of friendships and relationships and really caring and really going the extra mile. And that's what, when I look at that, like it helps me keep focused and honest, because those records were made very pure.
Right.
And like one of the records I started producing on my kitchen table, another record, like it was unglamorous in a way, it was just music. It was just me and a keyboard or JP and a song or some, like really they started out small and they grew into these beautiful masterpieces, really. And that's the feeling I take from it,
Absolutely. And was it in that studio that you're in now that, because Stormzy was a guest on that record?
Yeah, so Stormzy was sitting right there on that chair.
Really?
And Mama's Prayers was like an amazing record because it only took 3 hours. So Stormzy came in and kind of had the idea of Mama's Prayers in his head. And kind of him and JP had never met, so they were chatting, and I was kind of in a way, I was staying out of the way, but my studio is small, and so I was just playing the chords. I started just playing the chords, and then JP started humming and Stormzy started writing, and that was it. It was like an 8-bar piano loop that I started playing.
Wow.
And then the guys started writing and they recorded, and 3 hours later Stormzy was gone, and that was it. Those are the vocals that I used on the final record.
Wow.
Yeah.
When Stormzy left the room, were you buzzing? That sounds like an incredible 3 hours.
Buzzing. But again, it was like sometimes, and it doesn't have to happen all the time, but certain sessions are very spiritual and you just feel it. There's something that descends on the room. And that was one of them where from the first second, like I knew, JP felt it too. It was just so honest again. I keep coming back to that. There was something about it that was just so beautiful and pure. And I knew it was a special record. We all knew. Yeah. We all knew it was a special record.
How do you stay focused on your job during moments like that?
I don't know. There's not, in many ways, there wasn't a lot of a job for me right then and there, because once I had the chords down, I didn't want to produce around that yet, because I was just like, let the guys do. So I might have programmed a little bass or a little snap or like really simple drums, but nothing big, because I was just like, I just wanted the guys to have the space to do whatever they wanted to do. So in a way, you finish, and then I was just sitting here watching the guys write, and I was just in awe of them, both of them, because they're such incredible lyricists, and they got their bars so fast, within 20, 30 minutes each, they were ready to record. And it was just like one of those moments where like, wow, I'm really in the presence of greatness. And I'm in this room as well. Wow,
Nice. JP's latest album, She, you produced a lot of the gospel tracks.
Yeah, so I did all the gospel versions, all the acoustic versions, and 1.5 on the full album. Yeah.
Right. Was gospel music important to you growing up? Is that in your DNA?
It isn't in a traditional way, because even though I come from a church background, the church I went to was more a classical church. With that, I mean, we had opera singers and people from the Philharmonic and stuff like that there. So really? I learned how to sight read. I had to, so I played a lot in church, but it was kind of more like, Hannah, come and sight read this, sight read that, accompany this singer, accompany that singer. So I think it was only like coming to London where I met some incredible gospel musicians, artists, directors, musical directors, that became much more in kind of my DNA. And with the gospel record, we had some incredible people work on it. So I produced it, but then we had an artist, a musician called Nikki Brown, and a vocalist called Wayne Ellington do a lot of the choir arrangements, and they come from church. That's what they do all day, every day. And so it was incredible for me to be around people that are such experts in that. you know, and kind of producing it and holding it together, pulling it together. It was incredible. It was incredible.
Yeah. So you mentioned, I guess that in the education that you got in church, was that in Berlin? Because I understand
That
that's
was in
where
Berlin. Yeah, that was in Berlin.
What
Yeah.
years were you in Berlin between? What was it, your entire childhood?
Yes. So I was in Berlin. I moved to London when I was 19. So I lived in India as well for a while, but my main musical education was, I went to an international school in Berlin, and I went to an American church in Berlin.
Right.
And the school, again, was based kind of on an American school system. So we had an incredible music program. And that's where, you know, I was playing in choirs, I was playing in bands. We had a big band teacher. I got my first jazz records from him. He gave me Miles Davis Kind of Blue, Coltrane Blue Train, and, you know, my life changed forever. And again, I was so fortunate to have that. So every day after school, you know, school finished at 3-4 o'clock, that I'd go straight to the music building, practice till 7. My friends were all musicians. We were all in a band together, the usual kind of high school band stuff, you know. But I notice now, and I realize now how much of a privilege that is, because not everybody has people they can jam with. And the education you get from that, you know, like, even though, yeah, of course we weren't very good, we played way too loud, we only knew a few songs, but there's still something you learn from, like, being in someone's basement and just playing, you know.
Yeah.
You get the performance chops, you know. By the time I came to London to study music, I must have done hundreds of gigs already, you know, like, yeah, okay, they're just little school performances or in church or here or there, but still, you're on stage, you get that feeling, you know, in many ways, you've made all your mistakes already, you know, everything that could have gone wrong, of course, goes wrong, and you learn how to deal with that. You learn about poker face, you learn about quickly, you know, adjusting things, or, you know, the keyboard's broken, okay, cool, let me quickly run to the piano. You just figure things out, and all of that is so important, you know.
So important. And I imagine just as important in your production work, when a piece of equipment goes down, you don't panic, you just figure out a workaround.
Yeah,
And it's
exactly. And
all
just think on your feet, you know, don't feel too bad about it. Again, now I'm okay. I don't freak out as much when something goes wrong. When I first started producing, I get so upset. I feel so unprofessional, but now I'm just like, listen, computers have gremlins. Sometimes, doesn't happen a lot, but once in a while, go down to the cafe, give me 10-20 minutes. I just need to figure some stuff out. And then, you know, like, just silently, quietly go through, you know, process of elimination. Is it this? Is it this? Is this? Is this interface? Is that cool? Fix it. Done. You know, and sometimes, you know, I remember we had one session where we just had a power outage on the whole street. And then you think, well, here's an acoustic guitar. That's all we can do. And the song was great, you know. So it's preparing, but then also just throwing all the preparation in the wind when you have to, you know, really having fun with it, and it doesn't matter what you can make music anywhere with anything. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, true. When you moved to London for the Royal Academy of Music, where you studied at, what was your goal? What was the hope that this was going to lead to?
I wanted to initially have a jazz trio and tour the world as a jazz pianist. I was obsessed with, like, the classic trios, Herbie Hancock's, Chick Corea, Keith Jarrett. I wanted to do that. Which, you know, in hindsight is like, it's so crazy where my life has led me. And I came to the Academy, and it was amazing, but it was also really hard, because I think all of a sudden I was surrounded by, you know, child prodigies, people that were like actual, like, legit the best musicians in the world, right? And you all of a sudden you understand how good people can be. You see the levels, and, you know, like, one of my classmates was like a professional classical pianist when he was 10, decided to give that up. I'm like, oh my God, I barely started playing at that age, you know, like, we're talking like people that started, you know, when they were 3 years old or something like that. And I found it really intimidating, you know, and in many ways, I wish when I was younger, I would have known that I would end up in pop music and contemporary music, because in many ways, when I was there, I just felt like, oh my gosh, you're not like the best jazz musician in the world. What are you going to do with your life? You know? But I think part of that, it's all part part of my story, part of the process, part of like leaving the academy and think, now what, you know, and then slowly getting into session work. It's part of it, part of the story.
Yeah. Do you still, in your spare time, play jazz piano?
I should do more. Not enough, not enough. But you know, like I still have like occasional piano lessons. I've got a piano in the back of the studio, and I should be practicing daily, but I don't. So I will. I will. You always want to keep your chops up. You know, I'm always going to be a pianist. Like that's my first love. It's never going to leave. It's never going to leave. But I have to admit, you sometimes get a bit lazy in the studio because I only have to record it, you know, once, and then you know, and but I definitely try and keep my chops up. Because once in a while you do get asked, you know, like, especially by the producers, Hannah, do me an epic intro. And I'm like, whoa, okay, I need to quickly get my chops together again. But again, you know, like, I've practiced so much in my life that it doesn't take long to get up to a certain level again.
Sure.
It's like training, isn't it? It's like going to the gym. You know what you need to do before a race. It's the same for me with piano. Absolutely. I kind of know I need to like block away 2 weeks and just practice, and then I'm good.
Yeah. So when you think about all of your production work and the journey that you've gone through in terms of learning the skills and always getting better with each job, is there one production in particular that was a really steep learning curve for you in which you emerged from a different producer?
Interesting question. Holy Water on JP's latest album called She. That was a tough production for me. I don't know why. It just took me like, I would say it took me about 3 months. And it was just, I knew the feeling I wanted from it. Because really, I had the song and I had the guitar part. That's all I had to work with. And it was just, sometimes songs take as long as they take, you know. And it was one of those songs where it just happened so slowly, you know. And then we got the vocal arrangement. Then I got a singer to come in and do some more vocal. Then we got the Hammond come. And then, you know, and it was always like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. In the end, I was like, oh my gosh, I knew I was so close, you know? And so that was like that was a tough production for me. But I'm really happy with the results. So I think some songs are tricky, and they test your patience, you know? And I think I always have one song a year like that, where it's just like, I mean, some songs are literally 2-3 sessions that I know exactly what it needs, done. And it's, you know, and some songs just, they don't treat you like that, and you have to wrestle with it. You have to wrestle with it, and you know, and you love it and you hate it, and you put it down, and you pick it up again, and you start from scratch, and then you go back to the latest version, and it's a struggle with certain songs. And I feel it's gonna be like that for the rest of my lives. I always think there's certain songs that it just takes as long as it takes to click into place.
Yes, absolutely.
You know,
and I get. Oh, I'm sorry. No, you go.
I don't even know what I was meant to say. What I was going to say, but I think along the lines of, I try not to get so freaked out anymore when I have one of those songs, because I kind of know that's just the process. You know, some songs will take you to the edge, you know, of like tearing your hair out, thinking, do I even want to do this? And of course you want to do it. Then the next morning, something happens in your brain, and one part clicks, and then you're like, okay, I'm a tiny step closer to the finishing line, you know?
Nice. There was just a comment in the comments saying, was that the first single?
That was the first single of JP's latest album, yes.
Yes. So it was all worth it.
Yeah, it was all worth it. And it's the first track on the album, again, which is really nice because I got the first one on the last album. So that's lovely. Yeah.
Nice. Just a few more things, Han. Thank you for being so generous. Time. I appreciate it. One thing I'm always interested in talking in these live streams, talking to producers such as yourself, is I guess talking about how they balance their work and their life, and how their mental health fits in amongst that, because I guess you work pretty unconventional hours. You know, it's 10:30 there now and you're still working, and you work with artists all around the world, so I imagine there's time schedules to deal with then. And you mentioned earlier, just the simple act of having a Saturday and a Sunday off was really important to you. Yeah. But in general, how do you balance your work and your life and take care of your mental health in this industry that you're in?
Yeah. You know what? Again, it's something that came to me. I wish I would have known everything I know now when I was touring, when I was younger, because my mental health was a mess on the road, a mess. And I think that was one of the big reasons I had to quit as well, you know. It's so important to have a life away from music, to have friends away from music, to not just talk about music, not just talk about, oh, I wrote a big chorus today, or I didn't write a big chorus. It's being well-rounded is so, and having interests, having hobbies is so important, you know. And like, and my hobbies are the same as everyone else's, you know. Like, I love cooking, I love traveling, I love seeing my friends, I love going to restaurants, you know. But all of these things, like, I do not miss not making music when I don't make music. And that for me is a big thing. When I close my computer, I don't think about it until the next morning. And something happens in that space. Like, things connect, and I walk in and I'm like, oh, I know exactly what I need to do, you know?
Yeah.
Traveling for me is a big, big, big thing. Again, laptop closed, away from the job, just seeing the world, hanging out with people showing me their city, eating the food. All of that is so inspiring, right? That I come to the studio, come back into this room, like, just raring to go. Reading a good book, watching amazing movies or series, all of that. The irony of it is actually makes me a better musician, you know? So in a way, it's like good for my business to be well-rounded, because it absolutely makes me being a better human being makes me a better musician. Of course it does. We know that, you know?
Yeah.
So time off, like my morning, you know, I have my morning rituals, and, you know, I'm very, you know, I try not to get on my phone, and I do, you know, I wake up and, you know, I do my meditation, I do my prayers, I ground myself for the day. And, you know, every day when I go to the studio, it's not about the song. You know, like I always say, like, let me just have a great day and have a great connection. That's it. You know, whatever happens, happens. And just being a bit more holistic about it has made my life so much easier and so much nicer and so much more pleasurable. I'm excited about every single day. You know, when people ask me, Hannah, what are you working on? That's great. Say everything. It's all great, you know, because it's your attitude, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's such great advice and insight. Thank you for sharing that. And then there's a comment there now from someone saying that they would be it'd be lovely to see you at the JP Cooper concert in Berlin.
So I'm not going to be playing at the JP concert in Berlin, but I might be there just to visit and get drunk in the back. I have a couple of drinks.
Nice. Hannah, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. We could talk about this forever, right?
We could. Maybe there's a part 2 in our future.
Yeah.
But
thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Hannah. I look forward to hearing that song that you were working on today as well.
Absolutely. It's definitely going to come out.
All right. Awesome. Take care, Hannah. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.